Well, he's one of the most beloved Hurricanes' sons, and he's coming home. Brad Shields, welcome to the show, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I wouldn't say beloved son, but I've loved my time in the cane so far.
Yeah, well, you're a very, very popular man amongst us fans, and it just seems like when I heard this story that you've been away for, 6 years now?
No, I read something about being 6 years too, but I left at the end of 2018, August. So that's been about it'll be 5 seasons August this year, so 5 years into this year.
And you're back for the start of next year, so 2024 season.
Yeah, so I'll be back. We'll be coming back to New Zealand sort of mid-July, hoping to sort of play some Mitre 10 Cup and then obviously roll into the Super Rugby pre-season in December and then crack into the season next year.
Well, let's start at the top then, because when you went away, you were going to England and your big ambition was to make that English rugby side, which you did do, and you played, good half a dozen tests?
Yeah, just above half a dozen, yeah.
So
eight or nine.
Eight in a row. All right, okay. So and how do you feel that all went? Like, how do you look back on that time now?
Extremely grateful. Like one of my goals, and I think it's most rugby players' goals, is to play on the international stage, and I managed to do that with England, and I'm extremely lucky and grateful for the opportunity that Eddie gave me. Firstly was to go to South Africa and play a couple of matches there, and then obviously had a bit to do with the end of the year tour or Northern Internationals, and then the Six Nations the following year leading into the World Cup. So I was extremely grateful. I look back and I'm pretty disappointed in myself, to be fair, how it sort of finished, because I don't think during the World Cup camp I unfortunately took a nasty injury with my plantar fascia, and it put me out for almost right in the middle of that camp. So I don't reckon I gave myself the best opportunity to crack that World Cup team, and it was pretty touch and go of timing anyway. But whether I would have made it or not, that's probably one thing I look back on and I'm a bit frustrated about. But at the same time, I'm extremely grateful. When I look back on my rugby career, I'll be like, man, I actually got to play 80,000 Twickenham, played against the All Blacks even, which was a pretty massive milestone as well.
What did that feel like that particular day? Were you nervous before it happened?
Oh, mate, I get nervous before every game.
Right.
whether it's rocking up for Petone, the Villagers, or Wellington or Wasps, whatever it is, I get nervous before every game.
It must have been an amazing, to stand there and actually look back at because your dream was always to play for the All Blacks, wasn't it? And then to look back across the field and see these guys standing there.
Yeah, I think the weirdest part of it was actually facing a hooker. I'd never really I've always been in a team that does a hooker, like the under-20s, we did one. I'd never been, apart from maybe some of the island nations, but you kind of used to that. But that was probably the weirdest part. And the second weirdest part was singing the English national anthem, looking across, into the stadium and staring directly at my parents and my wife, standing in the crowd. So that was kind of the second weird part to it. But it was amazing, mate. Like, it's one of these games that you never forget, because, on one side of the field you're representing a different country, but on the other side, you're playing against your mates that you played, for 8 or 9 years with back in New Zealand. So it was pretty surreal.
Your dream was to play international rugby, so you did that. You ticked that. Okay, it might have been a bit frustrating, but you've actually done that. And then, of course, into the club rugby scene you went, and Wasps, and that didn't work out that well, did it?
Well, the first couple of years went too bad.
Okay, until they went into receivership.
Yeah, well, COVID was the first thing that screwed that sort of momentum up. But then, it's been a bit of a sour finish, to be honest. And, I look back and it's pretty frustrating, because it's put not just me, but it put a lot of players in sort of in a position that I don't think any rugby player would think they'd ever be in. I mean, people lose their contract all the time, as in they don't get another contract for the following season, or they move teams. But you tend to know that far in advance, whereas this was like, right, don't come in tomorrow, you ain't got a job anymore. And that was probably the most frustrating thing about it. And there's still some guys out there, I'm extremely lucky, but there's some guys out there that don't have a contract still, and are looking to hopefully pick one up for the next season.
Brad Shields is with us on the platform. We're just talking about the return next year, 2024, for the Hurricanes. So it just happened as quick and as indecent as that, was it? Did you actually just get a phone call? Did you get a text? How did it go down?
No, so there was a few weeks before that, there was a bit of spice that came out in the media, which we were pretty disappointed about, in terms of not hearing it directly before it went out in the media in terms of the direction of the club was going. Every sort of bit of news that we got always seemed to be pretty positive, and it was pretty positive up until almost we were getting text messages saying, "Yeah, come on, we've got a meeting now. This is the plan." And then one Sunday evening, we got an email basically saying, "Look, we need everyone to come here. You've got 2 sites, one at the stadium, one at the training facility. Come to either one," basically, and said Monday morning, 10 o'clock or whatever it was. And we all rocked up, and then they said, "Right, you're going into administration. We can't pay you at the end of the month." So that's it. So there's a little bit of lead up, although we didn't think we were ever going to be in a position where we were going to lose our jobs, which was pretty shocking, to be honest.
Mate, I mean, look, I've been working in an industry where this happens, people, and it just, you
Yeah.
get your legs cut out from it. And honestly, I don't know, everyone that has ever gone through this situation in their lives, either been made redundant or losing their jobs or something like that. Please believe me, people, it is just such a seismic shock to your life. It changes everything, and it really, and I suppose the biggest battle that I always faced, and people in my industry, it's just the head stuff that you go through, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're saying like the mental battle and that sort of stuff. Is that what you're leading to?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And for a rugby player, like, it's such a niche market at the moment, and it's such a competitive market. And if you think about, obviously Wasps going under, but a few weeks before that, Worcester had just gone under as well. So there's 2 teams, there's 40 squad players in both teams. So you've got something like 70 to 80, some to 85 players that have just flooded the market. That have just gone boom, right? We don't have a job anymore. Where can we go? So it's not like, I mean, it was pretty surreal at the time, and it probably took a few days for it to sink in. And some of us are like, "Oh, this is not real. Something's going to happen, blah, blah, blah." And then, all of a sudden, one person takes contract somewhere, then another person takes contract, and I'm lucky enough to get, a contract. And then all of a sudden, everyone's dispersed. You don't really get the chance to say goodbye to anyone, after 4 or 5 years or 10 years, some people at the club. And then all of a sudden, it's just vanished. Which is crazy, and I know it happens in business a lot, but it doesn't like you say, it doesn't change the fact that it screws your mind up, and you start to second guess everything now, like confidence in other people and all this sort of stuff, that confidence in your ability to get a job and all that sort of stuff. So it was a pretty scary time, to be honest with you. I mean, you've got a young family, and that it does make all the difference.
Yeah, and the other thing is that in the same kind of parallel industries, I mean, what you get paid for is what you actually do, and if you're not actually doing it, and then I suppose you start questioning, what the hell am I going to do? What say it doesn't? Did you have any kind of fears about what say I don't get another contract?
There was always that thought. I mean, it's tough because I was lucky enough that it might happen pretty quickly, and we had a little bit, off to the side to get us through a couple of months or wherever, how long it might need it to be. But some guys are waiting like 4 or 5 months before they got a new contract. Some of them obviously went to Australia to play, but you're sitting there like, geez, how long can I hold out for before I need to start working and keeping the income coming in to, you still got your bills to pay, you still got mortgage to pay, you still got cars to pay. Like, nothing stops. The only thing that stops is your income. And like I said, like, you got a family, you got school fees and all that sort of stuff. So it is crazy, and the thought definitely crosses your mind. But then again, you've got to kind of compartmentalize that and be like, right, I need to be proactive. I am good at what I do. How can I take this out into the market? And you see the value of players now has dropped over the last couple of years just from COVID, but also this as well. Like, there's a lot of players now wanting to come over to France or wherever it might be for half the salary that they're on before, just so they can have some security,
Brad, what's happened to Wasps since? We haven't had a lot of information about it.
So basically there's a new, it's basically changed hands now in a new group led by a bloke, Chris Holland. He's actually very sound, and they've got a small team working on it at the moment. They're very positive in direction. So the one thing about Wasps is massive amount of history. There's a big old Wasps legends, ex-players, staff, anyone who's been a part of Wasps is part of this one group. And they worked really hard to keep the name, jump through all the hurdles the RFU had put in place. And obviously they've basically said, well, if you want to play in the championship next year, which they're pretty confident they'll do, they've got to do certain things to then get cleared. So they've got a few more hoops to jump through, but then they've got the biggest hoop of putting a team together in the next couple of months, ready for July. So they're pretty confident, and I think most people who have been involved in the club, they want it to succeed. whatever happened previously, you know, in the business, it doesn't quite reflect on the direction that they want to go, because everyone loves Wasps. The fan base is amazing. It's just unfortunate that things weren't really dealt with properly to keep the club going initially. But hopefully they're gonna you know, rebound and look forward to the future, which would be nice to see.
Brad Shields is with us back with the Canes next year on the platform, and so went to Perpignan and had a little contract there. Is there a possibility that you're going to go back to Europe after the Hurricanes, or when you come back to New Zealand, is this it, you're going to log it back here?
If I'm completely honest with you, I'm not really too sure. A lot of the, you know, there's probably two different sets of reasons why we decided to come back to New Zealand. The last few months has been an absolute, you know, like you said before, not a mental battle, but, you know, to uproot your kids from one place, quickly shift them to France. You know, we're looking to settle the kids, and Wellington seems to be the place that we were going to end up eventually. My wife's parents also live in New Zealand, so there's a big factor. And obviously the rugby in New Zealand and Australia, like the Super Rugby competition, is still pretty vibrant and pretty exciting. So, but I'm fine with one season with the Hurricanes for now, and hopefully, you know, all going well, I'll stick around for a little bit longer. But the thing with rugby is you never know where your last contract's going to be, right? Unless you're Dan Carter or potentially a Bowden Barrett or whatever superstars, you're in control of where you go. But you know, sometimes we just got to take what's on offer until we don't enjoy the sport anymore, or until we've had enough, and then we hang the boots up. And I've always said, when I stop enjoying being out on the pitch, that's me done and dusted, and that hasn't happened yet. So hopefully I've got a few more years up my sleeve.
Well, look, you played 103 games for the Canes before. I mean, so you got a hell of a pedigree here, man. I mean, how long do you want to keep playing for?
Well, I don't know. I've never really put a tag on it, because I've always wanted to. Like I said, as long as I'm enjoying it, I don't see the point in retiring. And if I can still, the thing is, when you start letting a team down through your ability or whatever, then that's when you don't enjoy it. And if I ever get to that point, maybe hopefully someone will bloody tell me.
Right.
But you're kind of like, well, okay, I think I'm done. Like I think I've reached my max potential. I'm starting to not play the same quality that I want to. I can't provide the same help that I need to for a club or for a team. So then you start looking at, you know, what's the exit strategy. And at the moment, I still feel pretty good. And 31, 32 next week. So, you know, some guys you look at over here, you look at Jimmy Gopper, who's nearly 40 or is 40 years old, still playing at the top of his game at Leicester.
Brilliant.
I know. So, you know, backs are a little bit different, you see. They tend to hide away from contact a bit more. But there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 players in the Premiership now that are still, you know, at that age, that are still performing pretty well. So longevity in rugby is getting better. How you look after yourself, you know, understanding freshmen is getting better. But you've got to enjoy it as well. So why would I stop when I can keep going? That's my mantra anyway.
Well, you know, there's this big dream, isn't there? And I think a lot of, you know, young players in New Zealand think, okay, well, I'm going to go over, I'm going to earn the big bucks overseas, I'm going to play in England, play in France, I might go to Japan or something. Sometimes the road's just not paved with roses, isn't it? And that's, I suppose, I mean, what do you take from it, from the whole experience? I mean, obviously you learn a hell of a lot about yourself. You know, you either your family gets tighter or it doesn't. I mean, obviously that's, you know, one great thing that you've got your kids and you've got your family and that all around you. And I mean, and ultimately, I suppose you've got to be grateful for the fact that the things that do go your way. Is that how you look at it?
100%. And I guarantee I'll look back on my career when I'm finished, and I'm like, man, I achieved so many amazing things. It's hard to sort of see that in the moment. But I'm like, man, I achieved so many amazing things, and the support that my family's given me over the last sort of, you know, recently the last 5 years, shifting their whole life to come over, especially my wife, giving up her career and all that sort of stuff. You know, you kind of think that it is an amazing time, and the experiences you share off the field, you know, the friends you make, it is a cool sort of opportunity that rugby gives you, is to travel the world. Now, in saying that, like, the grass is always greener, obviously. And it gets to a point where you're like, well, what is my ambition? You know, what is my purpose? And sometimes the financial burden, if you will, you think about, I need to make as much money as I can. And that's true, because it's only a short-lived career. But you're kind of like, well, is that the most important thing that I'm chasing now? Or is it the enjoyment of the sport? Is it looking at how I'm going to, you know, network to get out of rugby and focus on what I'm going to do next? Or is it support my wife now? She can now work back in Wellington, and I can still do what I love at a high level. So when you have family and everything, sort of your thought process changes a little bit. You stop becoming so selfish, I suppose, and your goals and your career and what can I do to help other people as well, and how can I share my experiences and my love of the game with young people and put back into the game as well. So it changes the older you get. And financially, it wasn't it wasn't the main driver for me to go overseas. It was obviously playing international rugby. And I managed to do that. So then now your mindset changes a little bit when you're a little bit out of that mix.
How good are you going to be, mate, when you come back? And also, have you been watching much of the Super Rugby?
I love it, mate. You know why? Because it's the first thing I can watch on the weekend. When I get up in the morning with the kids at 7 o'clock or whatever, 6 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock, there's always a couple of Super Rugby games on.
Brilliant.
So I enjoy it, and it's quick, it's exciting. I might have to shed a couple of kegs before I come back. I'll put it on. I'll put it on for the physicality over here.
Sure,
that's for sure. And the baguettes and cheese in hand and that seem to keep making an appearance each day for our lunch and our breakfast over here. But no, I think I'll be up for it, mate. And it's a good challenge for me anyway. Like, you go through different phases of your career and you're looking for a new challenge. And for me, it's trying to add to that. The background is a lot of young guys in the Hurricanes, but they're going to inspire me to be better, to be fitter, to be faster, and hopefully I can push those guys as well to get the best out of them. So nothing beats a good challenge.
It's a hell of a story, mate. It really is. And we thank you so much for spending so much time with us. Welcome back when you do get back. Wellington, there's one or two changes, a few more cycle lanes than when you left last time. The buses have all gone electric. And actually the summer was the best summer that they've had in about 20 years. So those are all positives for you, mate.
Oh, looking forward to it. We're coming back right in the middle of winter, so hopefully make the most of the sun here in Perpignan and see how we go when we get back. But I am looking forward to coming back. It's going to be obviously different. But mate, I've lived in a couple of cool places in the world now. So, but some people always say you can't beat Wellington on a good day, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right, mate. Or even a bad day too. So cool talking to you, Brad. Let's keep in touch, mate, and hopefully chat again when you're back here and back playing NPC rugby. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, amazing, mate. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate your time.